guys, welcome back to another Screen Team segment. As we get ready to finish up this particular show, I have got Mr. Steve Lewis on the show. Steve, dude, it's so good to have you back on the Screen Team, man. It's been a while.
Thank you, Chris.
I tell you what, we're getting ready to review a film. A lot of you out there know my feelings about Hitchcock. He's hit or miss with me. I know if I had to guess, and I'm just making speculation here, you're probably a huge Hitchcock fan.
I'm a huge Hitchcock fan of what is good. But there are some misses. I will agree with you. Okay,
so we're going to talk about this one film. It's called Rebecca. Rebecca puts Marcia Brady to shame. I mean, she's just talked about all throughout this movie. And I don't think I'm giving away a spoiler here, but we never see her in this film.
That is not a spoiler.
We never see Rebecca at all.
She is very much a central character who does not exist.
She does not exist. She has passed away before we see the main elements of this film.
Right.
We meet the future Mrs. De Winters, correct? Is that her name?
That is the only name we are given.
We never find out her first name.
That is one of the great things about this movie is the central character is usually she's just referred to as the second Mrs. De Winter.
And how would you describe her? To me, she's kind of like a lost puppy dog in this film, at least for most of the movie.
Well, she's very timid. Mm-hmm. Yes, she is entering a world that is palatial and opulent and full of riches. Her new husband, Maxim De Winter. Now, just let's pause a moment and consider his name, Max De Winter.
Max De Winter.
I mean, if there ever was some sort of an indication as to what kind of a character we're marrying here, Maximum Winter. Sounds like a warm guy, right? But he's wealthy, and she is totally oblivious to the lifestyle that she is walking into.
And you mentioned his personality, and this guy, he's a good-looking dude. He's kind of suave, very elegant, but he doesn't. He feels bipolar to me a little bit. He's he'll jump on you one minute and then be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, honey, I didn't mean to do that." Right. And there's this one scene where he's like, I've been thinking there, and I think. I think you and I should take the next step. And she's like, "What do you mean? What are you talking about? La la la." And he's like, I think we should get married, you fool." I was like, that's one way of doing it.
In all fairness, she's getting ready to follow her, she's sort of a companion to a wealthy widow, and the wealthy widow is getting ready to head back to the United States.
So time is of the
right. He is either nailing her, bad choice of words, right now, or she's gone.
Yeah, this ain't going to happen. Right. So they get married and they move into their new house. And what is the house?
Her new house.
Oh, that's right.
The second, what I consider to be the second inanimate character in addition to Rebecca is Manderley.
Manderley. And how would you describe this house?
Manderley is a palatial mansion on the coast of England. It's almost gothic, but it's not a particularly warm feeling home. It's impressive. You drive up to it and you think, "Oh, wow, I'm going to live here."
Yeah.
But then you get in here and it's so cavernous.
So is the new Mrs. De Winter, is she welcomed in her new home?
No, she is not. Because even though the name of the movie is Rebecca, you would think, oh, well, this movie is about Rebecca. And then you meet Maxim De Winter and the second Mrs. De Winter, you think, oh, well, these have to be the central characters. These are the people that we're following.
Right.
I contend that, I won't say the main character, but the most pivotal character in the entire film is who we're introduced to in Manderley, and that is Mrs. Danvers.
Mrs. Danvers is very interesting to me. Now, this is the first time I've seen Rebecca, but I was familiar with this character before. Yes. I used to watch, AFI would do countdowns a lot, and they would rank the 100 greatest villains and heroes. And when they did the villains, they had Darth Vader and Hannibal Lecter, and then one of them was Mrs. Danvers. I was like, Mrs. Danvers, who is this? But she is absolutely terrifying in this film.
She looks and speaks and just her whole attitude. Yeah, she's not someone who you want to get to know.
There's that one pivotal scene where Mrs. De Winter, she is having she's having thoughts about, just taking her life and being done with all this whole charade. And Mrs. Danvers is
opening the window and pushing her out.
She's encouraging it. She ain't stopping it at all.
And okay, Hitchcock is considered the master of suspense. That's sort of his claim to fame, master of suspense. This movie is not particularly suspenseful in the traditional sense of suspense.
Sure.
You think of Hitchcock sometimes as a horror movie director. This is certainly not horror. If there's suspense, and one of the things I love about this, it's so muted. Everything that happens in this film that is terrifying is not in your face terrifying. It's situational tension,
Sure.
And it's created so much by Mrs. Danvers. And I don't think I'm giving anything away to say that the terror that the second Mrs. De Winter experiences in this film is how Mrs. Danvers imposes Rebecca upon her.
Right.
She expects the second Mrs. De Winter to become Rebecca. And everything from using her monogram stationery to doing everything that Rebecca De Winter would have done within a given day. Well, here's your correspondence for the day, and you'll be meeting these people this afternoon.
Right.
I mean, and Mrs. Danvers is basically the head of the household staff, I guess we should say that.
Sure.
Who is this woman? And she is devoted almost in a most disturbing way. She is devoted to the life and the memory of Rebecca.
Yeah.
I mean, almost, I would even go to say that she is in love, not in a sexual way, but
Sure.
in love with this woman,
Yeah. I want to talk more about the tension, and what I found very interesting with this film is the musical score. I was expecting a lot of, scary musical attributes to the music, and there was in certain parts, especially when Mrs. Danvers is, plotting a lot of her situations, but the music was rather happy to me.
I don't know that I picked up on that.
It had the typical 1940s kind of, cheery, bubbly, and it seemed to have a lot of that throughout the majority of the movie, and I was kind of surprised with it being a Hitchcock film and with the particular subject matter we had with this film. I was surprised that it was so happy, kind of bubbly. It just had that typical 1940s
Sure.
kind of score.
That's what I would remember from it, is that it seemed to be typically 1940s.
I'm trying to remember the character's name. George Sanders is the actor's name. He played Jack Favel in this film. He is at the very end. If I had one thing to criticize,
Cousin to Rebecca, that character?
Yes. If I had one thing to criticize about this film, and I enjoyed this film a lot, and I'm just going to come out and say it's, I'm not a big Hitchcock fan. I really, really loved Rebecca. But if I'd have one little thing to nitpick, it was his character arc, just Jack Favel at the very end. He's trying to blackmail Mr. De Winter, and spoiler alert, he fails. he straight up fails. And instead of him going to jail for, false accusations and stuff like that, he kind of makes a joke like, well, I've got to sell some car, guys. I can see you later. And then he leaves. And I felt that was kind of like, I know the movie's almost ending and they got to wrap things up, but that just seemed kind of a little hokey to me. So that's my only nitpick. Now, you said you're hit and miss with Hitchcock. Is Rebecca one for you?
No, it's definitely a hit.
Yeah.
Yes. And interesting trivia. This is the only Hitchcock film to win Best Picture. Did not win Best Director for Hitchcock. He never won an Academy Award. And I think it was Judith Anderson, who played Mrs. Danvers, who picked up an Oscar as well for Best Supporting Actress, which is the only actor who ever won
That is so
an
crazy.
Academy Award under Hitchcock's direction.
Man, I thought the acting was superb. Joan Fontaine, who is just an amazing actress, I thought she was just amazing. And then you got the great Laurence Olivier as well. The acting was superb.
Joan Fontaine, who is Olivia de Havilland's sister. I believe it was either this year or the next year. They were both up for an Academy Award. against each other. It was the next year, I guess, because they both lost.
And from what I understand, they don't have a very friendly, or they never had a very friendly sister relationship, from what I understand.
Yeah, they were sort of in competition, as I understand. Yeah.
All right, so the movie's Rebecca. Who do you recommend this to? All film goers, just people who like suspense? Who's this movie for?
If you're going to be one of those people who says, well, it's okay for a black and white movie, but if you're into good movies that are older and really classic stuff,
sure.
If you're into it, go for it.
Do it.
It's good stuff.
All right, the movie's called Rebecca, and you can find it on DVD or whatever it is you find movies. You want to stream it, do that as well.
Sure.
He's Steve. I'm Chris. We're part of the Screen Team, and we want you to know before you go.